On a warm Texas night in 2017, police responded to a frantic 911 call from an apartment on the outskirts of Houston. What they discovered inside would haunt them for years to come. The lifeless body of 48-year-old Noah Reyes, a decorated ex-Special Forces soldier, lying in a pool of his own blood. The prime suspect, his girlfriend of 6 weeks, 25-year-old psychiatric nurse Amanda Vale. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they uncovered a disturbing web of manipulation, deception, and forbidden desire that had ensnared Noah in the months leading up to his death. Sedatives found in his system and meticulously planned evidence told a silent tale of premeditation and calculated violence. Amanda Vale's path to becoming the central figure in this tragic true crime story began not with hatred, but with an obsession she called love, and ended with 17 stab wounds that shocked a nation. Amanda Vale's hands trembled as she adjusted her pristine white uniform on her first week at Clearwater Psychiatric Clinic. Already assigned to the high-security wing, the night shift supervisor handed her the patient files with a specific warning about room 204. Noah Reyes, ex-military, PTSD with violent episodes. The instruction was clear: don't engage more than necessary. Through the small observation window of room 204, Amanda paused, captivated by the sight of Noah. Unlike other patients who shuffled aimlessly, he sat perfectly still, reading, his posture military straight. His reputation for coldness toward staff was well known, but Amanda couldn't look away. His background, special forces, multiple deployments, witnessing his entire unit die in a classified operation, only intensified her fascination. The screams from room 204 at 2:17 a.m. cut through the quiet halls. Amanda raced down the corridor and found Noah thrashing against his sheets, trapped in a violent nightmare. When she called out to him, his eyes opened, wild and unseeing, shouting military commands about incoming attacks. Amanda responded using military terminology learned from her father, instantly breaking through his panic. No other staff had connected with him this way before. Noah's eyes focused on Amanda with newfound clarity. He asked about her knowledge of military jargon, and she explained about her father's service in Iraq and the nightmares she'd witnessed at home. As she completed checking his vitals, Noah caught her wrist gently and called her Angel. The head nurse appeared in the doorway just in time to witness this boundary-crossing moment. Amanda quickly pulled away, but the dangerous connection had already formed. Amanda began requesting night shifts repeatedly, lying to her fiancé Derek about the clinic being short-staffed. In the quiet midnight hours, she found herself increasingly drawn to room 204. Their conversations evolved from brief exchanges to long, intimate discussions. Noah revealed his childhood in San Antonio, his military career, and hinted at the classified incident that left him the sole survivor among his unit. The security cameras recorded Amanda's small infractions, bringing Noah contraband items, staying in his room longer than protocol allowed. What began as professional interest crossed into personal territory when Amanda confessed her doubts about her engagement to Derek. Noah's response was intense and flattering, suggesting she deserved to be worshipped, not merely tolerated. Their fingers touched during medication exchanges, lingering seconds too long, electric and forbidden. A violent thunderstorm hit Houston weeks later, rattling the clinic windows. Amanda immediately thought of Noah, PTSD, thunder, combat sounds. She found him huddled in his room's corner, silent and rigid with terror. Words failed to break through his flashback, so Amanda wrapped her arms around his trembling shoulders. His body felt warm and solid against hers as she instructed him to focus on her voice. What began as professional comfort shifted suddenly into forbidden territory. Their proximity, the intensity of the moment, the weeks of building tension, it all culminated in a desperate kiss that shattered every professional boundary. Reality crashed back moments later as Amanda pulled away, panicking at her violation of ethics. Noah promised secrecy while she fled to falsify her report, documenting only verbal reassurance and omitting their physical contact. The following 2 weeks became a dangerous dance of stolen moments in supply closets, empty therapy rooms, and the staff break room during quiet hours. Amanda manipulated medication schedules and patient assignments to maximize her time with Noah. She deflected concerns from colleagues who noticed her attention toward room 204. Their relationship intensified with each encounter. Meanwhile, Dr. Winters noted Noah's sudden improvement in therapy sessions. His engagement, cooperation, and future planning all indicated progress. The treatment team didn't realize this was a calculated performance designed to accelerate his release and allow him to be with Amanda beyond the clinic walls. Amanda's roommate noticed changes too: secretive phone calls, hidden smiles at text messages. Amanda brushed off these observations with vague references to work stress. Her double life seemed perfectly compartmentalized until Derek arrived unannounced at the clinic to surprise her with lunch. Amanda intercepted Derek at reception, her appearance betraying her recent activities with Noah. As she made excuses for her flushed face, Noah emerged from his room for recreation time. Their eyes met over Derek's unsuspecting shoulder, a moment of silent, dangerous recognition that crystallized the deception at the heart of Amanda's life. As Amanda led her trusting fiancé away, she felt Noah's possessive gaze following them. In that moment, something shifted. The dangerous game had escalated beyond her control, setting in motion a chain of events that would eventually lead to a blood-soaked apartment floor and 17 stab wounds in a sedated man's back. Derek's proposal to move up their wedding date came over dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant. He'd sensed Amanda's growing distance and mistook it for pre-wedding anxiety. His solution was to eliminate the waiting period. Amanda forced a smile and said yes, even as her stomach knotted with dread. In the restaurant bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face while fighting back a full-blown panic attack. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger, pale, guilty, trapped. The next night at Clearwater, Amanda made the mistake of mentioning the accelerated wedding plans to Noah during their secret meeting in the staff break room. His face transformed instantly, eyes hardening, jaw clenching. He knocked over a chair as he stood, demanding to know if she was playing some kind of game with him. Their argument escalated until they were both hissing accusations in hushed voices, aware that discovery would mean Amanda's firing and Noah's transfer. They continued their confrontation in the clinic's small garden, sequestered behind a row of hedges. Noah's rage was palpable, terrifying in its intensity. He grabbed Amanda's arm too tightly, leaving marks. His ultimatum was simple and devastating: choose Derek or choose him. There was no middle ground, no possibility of continued deception. Amanda saw her carefully constructed double life collapsing around her. In that moment of panic, the lie formed and escaped her lips before she could consider its consequences. The effect of her pregnancy claim was immediate and startling. Noah's rage dissolved, replaced by an almost reverent wonder. His hand moved to her still flat stomach with possessive gentleness. Amanda watched in horrified fascination as her lie took root and transformed before her eyes. Noah was already making plans, calculating dates, suggesting names. She nodded mechanically, telling herself she would find a way out of this deception later. For now, she had regained control of the situation. Or so she thought. 3 days later, Derek discovered the text messages. Amanda had grown careless, leaving her phone unlocked while showering. Derek had never snooped before, but something in Amanda's recent behavior had triggered his suspicions. The messages from N were vague but intimate enough to confirm his fears. He confronted her when she emerged from the bathroom, phone in hand, eyes hollow with betrayal. Their confrontation escalated quickly. Amanda had never seen Derek truly angry before. His usual calm diplomacy shattered like the plates he swept off their kitchen counter. His voice rose as he demanded answers. Who was he? How long had it been going on? Was this why she'd been distant? Each question hit Amanda like a physical blow. When she finally confessed to her relationship with a patient, Derek went deathly quiet. His ultimatum was clear: end it immediately or he would report her to the nursing board. The threat of losing her license, her career, everything she'd worked for, hung in the air between them. Amanda begged for his silence, promising to break things off with Noah, to seek therapy, to do whatever it took to repair their relationship. Derek listened, his expression vacant, before wordlessly removing her engagement ring and dropping it into the kitchen sink's garbage disposal. The grinding sound as he switched it on punctuated his departure. Amanda's hands shook as she called Noah afterward, her sobs making her nearly unintelligible. She managed to convey that Derek knew about them, that he'd threatened to report her to the nursing board. Noah's response chilled her, his voice calm, measured, and utterly ruthless as he promised that no one would threaten what was his. The possessive edge in his voice should have warned her, but Amanda was too distraught to recognize the danger. 2 weeks later, Noah received a surprise early release from Clearwater. He had manipulated his psychiatric evaluation masterfully, presenting himself as recovered, insightful, and ready to reintegrate into society. The treatment team, impressed with his rapid progress, approved his release with minimal outpatient follow-up. Amanda, caught unprepared by the speed of his discharge, scrambled to maintain her increasingly complicated web of lies. Noah appeared at her apartment that very night, clutching a bouquet of white roses, his eyes bright with plans and promises. Amanda had moved out of the place she'd shared with Derek and into a small studio apartment. Noah surveyed the space with ownership, immediately discussing how they would need something bigger for the baby. Amanda nodded numbly, realizing too late the monster her pregnancy lie had created. Their first night together outside the clinic walls should have been a culmination of their forbidden romance. Instead, Amanda found herself increasingly unsettled by Noah's intensity. His lovemaking was possessive, his whispers disturbing, promises that no one would ever separate them now, that they were bound by the life growing inside her. He spoke of their future with unnerving specificity, down to the color of their child's nursery and potential names. Noah had already decided on James for a boy, after his fallen commander, or Lily for a girl, after his deceased mother. After he finally fell asleep, Amanda sat in the bathroom with her laptop, the search bar open, how to fake a miscarriage. The harsh light illuminated her face as she scrolled through options, seeking an escape from the lie that was consuming her life. Noah's possessiveness escalated rapidly in the following days. When Amanda didn't answer her phone during a shift at her new hospital job, he called 27 times in succession. The 28th call went to the hospital's main desk, where Noah claimed to be her brother experiencing a family emergency. When Amanda emerged from a patient's room to find Noah in the hospital lobby, eyes dark with suspicion, she knew she was losing what little control she had left. The true extent of his surveillance became clear as Noah casually described her daily routine in precise detail. When she got coffee, which nurses she spoke with, even what she ate for lunch. "I like watching you when you don't know I'm there," he admitted without shame. "You're different with others than you are with me." The revelation sent ice through Amanda's veins. In desperation, Amanda called her former roommate Melissa, "I think I've made a terrible mistake." But before she could explain further, Noah appeared in her apartment, having used the key she'd reluctantly given him. In his hand were empty pregnancy test boxes he'd found in her bathroom trash. Amanda had been preparing to stage the revelation that there was no baby, never had been. Now her plan lay exposed in Noah's trembling hand. The confrontation that followed marked Amanda's first experience with Noah's physical violence. His open-handed slap sent her reeling against the wall. Her split lip and bruised wrist were painful lessons in the consequences of deception. As she cowered on the floor, Noah knelt beside her, stroking her hair with incongruous gentleness. "Don't ever lie to me about our baby," he whispered. "We're a family now. Nothing will change that. Nothing." The bruises Noah left became Amanda's moment of clarity. This would end badly, perhaps fatally, if she didn't take control. That night, after applying makeup to cover her bruised cheek, Amanda began researching her escape. Her laptop screen illuminated her face as she typed increasingly disturbing queries. The search history would later become crucial evidence: how to get sedatives without prescription, followed by Texas self-defense law domestic violence, and most damning, how many stab wounds indicate self-defense versus murder. Amanda developed her plan methodically over the next 3 days. At a home goods store 20 miles from her apartment, security cameras recorded her purchasing a new set of kitchen knives with cash. The same day, different store, different neighborhood, plastic sheeting, cleaning supplies, rubber gloves. Each transaction was conducted with meticulous care to avoid connections. Back at her apartment, Amanda cleaned obsessively, removing fingerprints, stray hairs, creating a sterile canvas for what would come next. Her text messages to Noah took on a conciliatory tone. She apologized for the misunderstanding about the pregnancy tests, explaining they were old, from before she met him. She suggested a romantic dinner to make amends. Noah's responses were immediate and enthusiastic, peppered with references to his angel and their baby. He promised to bring something special for their reconciliation. Amanda documented her existing bruises with careful photography, staging additional ones with makeup for supplementary evidence. In her bathroom, she recorded a voice memo detailing her fear for her life and Noah's increasingly violent behavior, describing threats he had never actually made. The memo ended with her trembling voice saying, "If something happens to me, Noah Reyes is responsible." The timestamp on the recording would suggest premeditation of a different kind, self-defense preparation rather than murder planning. The dinner preparations began at 6 p.m. Amanda wore a loose white blouse that would show blood dramatically. She selected soft music, dimmed the lights, chilled wine. From her purse she retrieved a small packet of crushed sleeping pills she'd stolen from the hospital. The powder dissolved invisibly into the opened bottle of Noah's favorite red wine. Noah arrived at 7:30, clutching a gift bag that contained a book of baby names and a tiny Odyssey with Daddy's Little Soldier printed across the front. His smile was radiant with anticipation as he kissed Amanda and placed a protective hand on her stomach. The gentleness of the gesture almost made her falter. Almost. Amanda poured the wine, ensuring Noah had the doctored glass while she drank from a separate bottle she claimed was safer for the baby. They discussed names, Noah still favoring James or Lily, while Amanda nodded and smiled. His excitement was palpable as he described the future he envisioned. A house outside the city, perhaps near the mountains where he'd trained, somewhere quiet where he could protect them. Amanda's phone, deliberately left on the kitchen counter, recorded their conversation, capturing Noah's loving tone, his plans for their family, nothing that suggested violence or threat. The recording would later become important, though not in the way Amanda intended. By the third glass of wine, Noah's speech began to slur. He shook his head, trying to clear the growing fog. Amanda watched with clinical detachment as confusion spread across his features. He attempted to stand but slumped back into his chair. "Something's wrong," he mumbled, eyes struggling to focus on her face. "What's happening to me?" Amanda's expression remained impassive as she walked to the kitchen drawer and removed the new chef's knife, still in its packaging. "You should lie down," she suggested calmly, helping him to his feet. As Noah staggered toward the couch, his military training broke through the pharmaceutical haze. His eyes focused momentarily on the knife in her hand, recognition and betrayal dawning simultaneously. "Angel." The question hung in the air as Noah lurched toward the door, his movements uncoordinated and sluggish. Amanda stepped into his path, knife raised. His eyes widened, a moment of perfect clarity before the first strike. The blade entered just below his rib cage, precise, deliberate, nothing like the panicked defensive wounds she would later claim. Noah's weakened attempts to defend himself were futile against the sedatives coursing through his system. He managed to grip her wrist after the third stab, but his strength was failing rapidly. Amanda twisted away easily, continuing her methodical attack. Each wound was strategically placed, though later she would claim blind panic guided her hand. As blood soaked through Noah's shirt, he slumped against the wall, sliding to the floor. His eyes, growing dimmer, remained fixed on Amanda's face. "Why, Angel?" The words were barely audible, his final breath carrying the question that would haunt the investigation. Amanda stood over Noah's body, counting the wounds, 17 in total. Enough to suggest frenzied self-defense, but not so many as to indicate obvious overkill. The calculated placement of injuries would be disguised by their number. With Noah's life extinguished, Amanda began the second phase of her plan. She used his limp hand to create scratches on her arms and neck, careful to break the skin enough to be convincing without causing significant damage. She methodically tore her blouse in places consistent with an attack, smeared his fingerprints on her skin, placed the knife in his hand momentarily to transfer prints to the handle. Around the apartment, Amanda created a tableau of struggle, overturned furniture, broken glass, scattered cushions. She practiced her panicked voice in the bathroom mirror, rehearsing the words until they sounded authentic. Cold water splashed on her face created the redness of tears. At 10:47 p.m., Amanda dialed 911. Her voice cracked perfectly as she gasped out her prepared story, "Please help me. My boyfriend, he tried to kill me. I had to, oh God, there's so much blood. I had to protect myself and my baby. Please hurry." When first responders arrived 7 minutes later, they found Amanda cradling Noah's head in her lap, her white blouse dramatically stained with his blood. Her performance of hysterical grief was flawless. The tableau of violence around them told the story she had choreographed. A pregnant woman's desperate fight for survival against a violent, obsessive man. What the paramedics couldn't see were the dissolved sedatives in Noah's system, the precision of wounds inconsistent with panic, or the calculated evidence trail that would eventually unravel Amanda Vale's performance and reveal the premeditated murder beneath her tears. Detective Serena Banks arrived at Amanda Vale's apartment 20 minutes after the first responders. The scene matched countless domestic violence cases she'd worked before. Overturned furniture, broken glass, blood spatter across walls and carpet. At the center sat a traumatized young woman wrapped in a shock blanket, paramedics treating shallow wounds on her arms and neck. The victim narrative seemed straightforward. Amanda Vale, 25, nurse, pregnant, attacked by her mentally unstable boyfriend. Noah Reyes, 48, former Special Forces, psychiatric patient, violent breakdown. Banks watched as the coroner's team removed Noah's body, noting the overkill nature of the stabbing. 17 wounds suggested panic and terror. Amanda's performance at the hospital was compelling. Tears streaked her face as she described Noah's increasing possessiveness, his refusal to accept that she wanted to end their relationship. "He said if he couldn't have me and the baby, no one would," she whispered, hands protectively covering her stomach. The interview generated immediate sympathy. By morning, local news painted Amanda as a heroic survivor of obsession who fought back against her abuser. Domestic violence advocacy groups reached out offering support and legal assistance. Social media filled with supportive hashtags celebrating Amanda's courage. A GoFundMe for her medical expenses and trauma counseling reached $12,000 within hours. Yet something about the scene kept nagging at Detective Banks. The blood spatter patterns seemed inconsistent with Amanda's description of events. The defensive wounds looked too uniform, too shallow. Most telling was Amanda's question about her phone, asking for it before asking about Noah's condition. Banks had seen enough traumatized victims to recognize when grief was performed rather than experienced. Without revealing her suspicions, Banks quietly ordered comprehensive toxicology reports and expanded background checks. She instructed the forensic team to test the wine glasses found at the scene and to conduct an exhaustive examination of Amanda's phone, secured as potential evidence. The investigation shifted dramatically 48 hours later. The forensic report identified significant traces of zolpidem in one wine glass and on the bottle, the same sedative prescribed to patients at Clearwater Clinic. Crime scene investigators noted the suspicious nature of the apartment's disarray. The struggle seemed staged, with furniture carefully overturned to avoid damage to valuable items. Blood spatter analysis suggested the victim was stationary during most of the attack, inconsistent with an active struggle. Amanda's phone yielded the most damning evidence. Despite her attempts to delete her search history, tech specialists recovered her queries about sedatives and self-defense laws. More devastating was the accidental voice recording from the night of the murder. Rather than capturing Noah's alleged rage, it documented his confused, sedated questions and Amanda's calm responses before the attack. Banks assembled a more complete picture through witness interviews. Clearwater staff described Amanda's fixation on Noah, not the other way around. Security footage showed her stealing medication from the dispensary. Noah's therapy journals, obtained through court order, revealed his concerns about Amanda's increasing possessiveness and his attempts to establish boundaries, the opposite of her claims. Pharmacy records confirmed Amanda's cash purchases of specific cleaning supplies known to eliminate blood evidence. Security footage from various stores showed her methodical preparation. Most damning was the testimony from her former fiancé Derek, who described Amanda's pattern of lies and manipulation, including her relationship with a patient. 5 days after the murder, Banks invited Amanda to the station for follow-up questions about your statement. Amanda arrived wearing black, playing the role of the grieving girlfriend, unaware she had transformed from victim to suspect in the investigation. Banks began the interrogation with sympathetic questions, establishing rapport before methodically introducing inconsistencies in Amanda's account. Why did the wine contain sedatives? Why did her internet searches suggest premeditation? How did Noah, supposedly in a violent rage, sustain 17 wounds without defensive marks on his hands? Amanda maintained her story with practiced tears, but her composure began to crack as Banks played the recovered voice recording. Noah's confused voice filled the interrogation room. "Something's wrong, what's happening to me?" Followed by Amanda's calm response, "You should lie down." No rage, no threats, no struggle. Just a drugged man and a calculating killer. Banks watched the color drain from Amanda's face as she presented the toxicology report showing Noah had enough sedatives in his system to render him barely conscious during the attack. "You drugged him, Amanda. He couldn't have attacked you. He could barely stand." Amanda attempted several alternative explanations. Noah took medication himself. She didn't know the wine was drugged. She blacked out during the attack. Each attempt crumbled under Banks' steady presentation of evidence. The detective finally played hospital lab results confirming Amanda was never pregnant, destroying the foundation of her claimed motive for self-defense. Amanda's carefully constructed facade collapsed entirely. Her posture changed, tears dried up, her voice hardened. "You don't understand what it's like," she said flatly. "He wouldn't let go. Once he believed there was a baby, there was no way out. Derek was going to report me. I was going to lose everything." The confession emerged in fragments. "I didn't mean to kill him. I just wanted it to stop. All of it. To go back to before." The district attorney announced charges the following morning: second-degree murder, patient exploitation, and falsifying medical records. Amanda Vale was transformed overnight from celebrated survivor to reviled predator. The same media outlets that had praised her courage now detailed her calculated deception with equal enthusiasm. Veterans groups organized protests outside the courthouse demanding maximum sentencing. Noah's former military colleagues provided character testimony about his honorable service and ongoing struggle with PTSD. The narrative shifted to portray Noah as a vulnerable patient exploited and ultimately murdered by someone entrusted with his care. At Amanda's bail hearing, the judge cited her cold and calculated planning in denying release. Her parents sat shell-shocked in the courtroom, unable to reconcile the daughter they knew with the manipulative killer described in court documents. The revelation that Amanda had never been pregnant, had fabricated the entire basis of her relationship with Noah, seemed to devastate them more than the murder charges. Hospital tests confirmed what the investigation had already uncovered. Amanda Vale had never been pregnant. The lie that had escalated her relationship with Noah into dangerous territory had been entirely fabricated to maintain control over him. The pregnancy that she claimed to be protecting during the attack had never existed. In response to the scandal, Clearwater Psychiatric Clinic implemented comprehensive new monitoring protocols. Security camera coverage was expanded, staff-patient interactions were subject to greater oversight, and mandatory reporting of boundary concerns became standard procedure. The institutional failures that had allowed Amanda to manipulate both the system and Noah became the focus of professional review boards and regulatory authorities. Noah's former military colleagues established a memorial fund in his name, dedicated to supporting veterans with PTSD. The fund specifically focused on creating safe therapeutic environments and proper boundaries between vulnerable patients and healthcare providers. The tragic irony, that Noah had survived war zones only to be killed by the person entrusted with his healing, became a powerful narrative in advocating for better protections for mentally ill veterans. As Amanda awaited trial in county jail, Detective Banks gathered the final pieces of evidence that would ensure justice for Noah Reyes. The case that had begun as a seemingly straightforward instance of self-defense had revealed itself as something far more sinister, a calculated murder born from obsession, deception, and the ultimate betrayal of professional trust. The Harris County Courthouse became a media spectacle during Amanda Vale's 7-day trial. Veterans in military uniforms stood silent vigil outside, while nursing organizations issued statements condemning professional boundary violations. Inside, The prosecution methodically dismantled Amanda's self-defense claims. This wasn't a crime of passion, the prosecutor told the jury. This was an execution of a sedated, vulnerable man who trusted his nurse. The evidence proved overwhelming. Forensics experts testified that 16 of the 17 stab wounds were delivered from behind. Toxicology confirmed Noah had enough sedatives in his system to render him incapable of the violent attack Amanda described. Security footage tracked her methodically purchasing murder supplies across 4 different stores. Against her attorney's advice, Amanda took the stand, attempting to resurrect her victim narrative. Her performance crumbled under cross-examination when she inadvertently admitted, "I stabbed him in the back because," before stopping mid-sentence. The courtroom fell silent at this damning slip. When pressed about Noah's sedated state, Amanda's final desperate claim, "I was protecting myself from what he might do," drew audible reactions from the jury. The prosecutor's closing question lingered unanswered. "Ms. Vale, how exactly does one protect oneself from a heavily sedated man by stabbing him 17 times from behind?" After just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with unanimous guilty verdicts on all counts. Amanda stood emotionless as her fate was sealed. The judge's sentencing statement was scathing, focusing on her extraordinary betrayal of professional duty and calculated exploitation of a vulnerable patient suffering from PTSD after serving his country. The sentence, 35 years without possibility of parole for 25 years. Amanda's only statement to the court was chilling in its lack of remorse. "He would have hurt me eventually." As bailiffs led her away, Noah's sister approached the stand, her voice steady despite her tears. "My brother survived multiple war zones only to be murdered by someone he should have been able to trust. The person who called herself his angel became his executioner." The case's ripple effects transformed psychiatric care across Texas. Clearwater Clinic implemented what became known as Vale protocols, comprehensive monitoring systems for staff-patient interactions. The Texas Nursing Board established mandatory training on professional boundary maintenance. The state legislature strengthened penalties for caregivers who exploit vulnerable patients. Detective Banks visited Noah's grave 1 year after the conviction. The military headstone stood stark against autumn leaves at Houston National Cemetery. On her way out, Banks passed a framed letter in the cemetery office. Noah's final correspondence to his sister. "I found someone who makes the nightmares stop. Her name is Amanda. She's my angel." Amanda's former fiancé Derek gave only one brief interview. There were signs. The secrecy, the changing stories, the distance. "I just didn't want to see them." 5 years into her sentence, Amanda maintained her distorted narrative. Her prison cellmate reported that Amanda still viewed herself as the victim, claiming Noah would have eventually become violent like all men do. More disturbing was the discovery of Amanda's correspondence with another vulnerable man, a recently divorced prison pen pal seeking connection. The Amanda Vale case became a cautionary tale in medical ethics classrooms nationwide. The memorial fund established in Noah Reyes' name provided service dogs to veterans with PTSD, along with advocacy for stronger protections in therapeutic settings. Detective Banks received a promotion based partly on her methodical work on the case. The final image in this tragic story, Amanda's prison ID photo, her eyes still reflecting calculation rather than remorse. As one psychiatric expert noted in analyzing the case, Amanda said she fell in love with a broken man. But in the end, it wasn't his mind that unraveled, it was hers.